Hello, and welcome to the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley, and I'm your beat reporter and host, and I've been your beat reporter for On SI, covering the Jacksonville Jaguars every single day since August 2019, and we're continuing to march forward through another offseason together. As always, you can find our 100% free 24/7 boots on the ground coverage of the Jacksonville Jaguars every single day when you follow us on social media such as Facebook and Twitter at Jaguars on SI. And you can also find us at www.si.com/NFL/Jaguars. Welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. We are continuing to go through our rankings of the most impactful Jacksonville Jaguars rookies for the 2025 season. We've gone so far 9 through number 4. Just to give you a recap, at number 9, we had center Jonah Monheim. At number 8, we had linebacker Jalen McLeod. At number 7, we had linebacker Jack Kaiser. At number 6, we had defensive back Rayon Lane. At number 5, we had running back LaQuint Allen. And at number 4, we had running back Bayshal Tootin. Now, here we are at number 3. Only 3 players left. Obviously, the first 3 players the Jaguars drafted, as expected. Normally teams draft players in order of how impactful they think, clearly they're going to be, not just in their rookie year, but throughout their career. So, not surprised to see the Jaguars' top 3 picks are in the top 3. You know who number 1 is. Everybody knows who number 1 is going to be. But before we talk about him, we have to talk about number 2, and today we are talking about number 3. So I said yesterday that I had done some actual debating on whether I should put Tootin at number 3, just because of, even if I see him as kind of a role player in the Jaguars backfield for his rookie season, he's still a role player who has the potential to do the most impactful thing you can do in an NFL game, which is score touchdowns. And you can't say that about many other players on this list other than Travis Hunter. With that said, after wrestling with it, for a little bit, I ultimately decided to put Tootin at 4, and that leads us here today to number 3. To me, between the player at 3 and number 2, there wasn't any debate. I felt very comfortable with who I'm putting at 2 and who I'm putting at 3. And sitting here at number 3 is none other than third-round pick and Tulane defensive back Caleb Ransaw. Ransaw, of course, is expected to play safety for the Jaguars, early on as a rookie. They've said they think he can play, really anywhere. He played cornerback, at Tulane, whether it's outside cornerback, whether it's as a nickel. He has a lot of good tape as a nickel, a lot of stuff that, in my opinion, projects there pretty well. Obviously has some physical traits. He isn't the biggest, guy. He's a 5'11" and 3/8. He's 41 percentile in height, 47th percentile in weight among defensive backs, 48th percentile in wingspan, 24th in arm length. So, looking at him physically, not a ton that pops off the page, but then you get into some of his testing numbers. 70 percentile 10-yard split, 1.52 seconds. He was running in the 40-yard dash, 4.33 second 40-yard dash, 96th percentile for an NFL defense back. That alone makes him one of the fastest safeties in the NFL before he even plays a down. That obviously gives him immense upside. Somebody who, has the speed and range to fly all over the field. The Jaguars, I wouldn't say, in past years have really looked at speed as a major factor, when drafting most defensive backs. I know Jarring Jones ran really well, but, some other guys, some of the late round corners they drafted, Antonio Johnson, etc., it didn't seem like they were really focusing on any pure speed guys, whereas Caleb Ransaw, I wouldn't say when watching his tape that he comes off as some kind of speed-first defender who, has some finesse to his game or anything like that. I'd argue it's very different. He's a very tough, gritty, physical player, does a lot of work inside the box, does really good job at getting run fits, as a force player, somebody whose game I think is built more upon his physicality and his toughness than I would say his speed. But obviously, he brings a lot to the table there. That wasn't the only thing he did well at the combine. 40-inch vertical jump, 90th percentile among defensive backs, and then 88th percentile broad jump. He had a really good day at the combine. Like I said, he's not a guy who's going to jump out to you, like getting off the bus or anything like that, but he definitely has a lot of physical upside. That sounds a lot like a lot of defenders the Rams have drafted in recent years. Guys who maybe don't look exactly what you're thinking of from the stereotypical height, weight, length point of view, but they still bring enough athleticism, enough movement skills, enough natural upside to make it, kind of a moot point and to make up for any shortcomings that they might have there. So, yeah, he's not really a big defensive back, but a lot of speed, a lot of athleticism, a lot of interesting physical traits. The reason I have him at 3, and I almost had him at 4, is I felt like coming out of the draft, this guy's definitely, going to start, etc. Again, they see him as a safety, so he's going to be competing for his snaps there. He's not going to be an inside guy necessarily or anything like that. I'm interested, though. We know Eric Murray will start at one spot. What do they do with Darnell Savage? Does Darnell Savage start the second spot and then Ransaw comes in for some 3 safety sets? Or is it vice versa? Because I do think Savage is legitimately a player left over from the last regime who can still make a big impact with this defense. He has really, really impressive physical traits, really explosive, violent, good coming downhill ball skills. I don't question that Ransaw is the future at safety. Murray's an older player signed to a shorter deal. Savage is only under contract for a couple more seasons. They have Wingard and Daniel Thomas, who are entering contract years. They also drafted Ray Lane. They have Antonio Johnson, who's entering his 3rd year. And it really feels like, a critical time for him, to try to make this roster in the offseason, in training camp, etc. So I'm just not as sold after, I guess, thinking on it some more and kind of looking at their defense, during OTAs, is I'm not really sure how they're going to go about the safety unit. So I'm not 100% personally that Ransaw even will start. I do think he'll obviously find some playing time. He'll obviously be a factor on special teams because, with his tackling ability, his physicality, his effort, his ability, just to simply get down the field. I mean, 4.33 speed. That alone makes him a plus asset on special teams, etc. So even if he doesn't necessarily have a clear-cut starting role as a rookie, I still think there's a lot of ways that he sees the field. But the Jaguars have said also at the same time that they're not going to be afraid to lean on their rookie class. And maybe that's something that works in his advantage. Either way, it's somebody who clearly, I think, James Gladstone said it best after they selected him. He more or less said the coaching staff helped him see Ransaw, in a different light, evaluate him a little differently. He wasn't a safety at Tulane, so obviously there's a projection there after they saw him do it at the Senior Bowl. So, he's an interesting player. I think, from what we've seen from him at OTA so far, didn't make a lot of standout plays or anything at the first OTAs. And then obviously rookie minicamp is just rookie minicamp, but he earned some praise from Liam Cohen after rookie minicamp. And then last week, at the 4th OTA practice, the second one that the media was able to see, he made a nice play on tight end Hunter Long in the middle of the field. It seemed like Hunter Long was going to pick up a first down. Ransaw really just closed on the play perfectly. You saw the athleticism, you saw the instincts, and he was able to record a pass breakup, in team drill. So he's somebody who I think has at least flashed a little bit, and we'll see moving forward how they figure out how to use him and how to use the rest of that veteran safety room. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. Please make sure you find, like, and subscribe to us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and all other podcast platforms. You can also find us on our YouTube channel at Sports Videos on SI.